It's that time again this week to open up the Peacock and Williamson mailbag. Tons of great NFL questions, quarterback, coach, GM combos in the NFL. And do we buy or sell Christian McCaffrey this season, specifically for some fantasy needs out there? All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thank you so much, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the questions that we get every single week for our mailbag episodes. And you can always drop those questions, even if it's not the day of, and you don't have to reply to our tweets and when we're asking for questions. Sometimes we get enough where we don't ask, but there's always questions coming in on Twitter at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL, or drop a question in the YouTube comments. And of course, make sure you subscribe while you're there. If you're already subbed up, hit the thumbs up. Let us know that you stopped by, and you can, of course, subscribe anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And I want to start with a question about, Matt, GM, head coach, quarterback combos. Now, it would be really easy for us to say, oh, I would love to cherry pick this GM and this head coach and this quarterback to start my franchise with. But it's a big question on where does it start? What is the most important thing? And the question comes from, I believe it was from Nas here. And he says, if you had to start an NFL franchise, what option would you rather start with? Team A, with head coach Andy Reid, GM Howie Roseman, pretty good start, and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Or would you rather start with Team B, with Chris Ballard at GM, Sean McVay at head coach, and Josh Allen at quarterback? So to me, these are two really good head coaches. Andy Reid belongs in a different tier because of his success versus Sean McVay, even though I think the world of Sean McVay as a coach as well. This becomes kind of a quarterback versus GM debate. And to me, this is really easy. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think this is a fun game. And maybe we should make this a thing. You know, send us quarterback, coach, GM, team one versus team two, because I love this idea. I love the question. I just think it's really one-sided of which team I would take in this particular instance. And I don't mean to nerd out too much, but my head is Sean McVay coaches a lot longer than Andy Reid too. You know, like that's part of it, I don't want to think too much. I mean, that probably kills the drill a little bit. But in my opinion, Reid is probably the best head coach in the league. But I'm not so sure it's not McVay. So the fact that he picked these two, to me, is closer than maybe it is for other analysts, other fans, etc. And frankly, the gap from Tua to Allen is nowhere close. And GM's important, but McVay's going to have a lot of input on my GM stuff too. And I definitely want Josh Allen's side.
Right. And look, if I'm the owner of this franchise, say, all right, Chris Ballard, you're now GM in title, but I'm making the decisions here. So I got Josh Allen as my quarterback. And that's the thing that's evaded Chris Ballard, right? And so would all those athletes that Chris Ballard have drafted look a lot better, and look his team build look a lot better if he could have gotten the quarterback thing put together and figured out. And
with a big time head coach, and
right, and you already have a good head coach, but even head coach, like I can find a head coach, I can find a GM. The thing that's the most difficult to find is the quarterback. So to me, I don't even care what the other names are. Give me Josh Allen over Andy Reid and Howie Roseman, period.
And to me, the two weak links are Tua and Ballard. And I'm not even saying Ballard's bad, but in this conversation, they're your last two draft picks of the six, without question. And frankly, I picked the Ballard side. Hey, Chris, if you screw this up, I'm firing you very soon because I gave you Josh Allen and Sean McVay. You know what I mean? Like,
put Josh Allen on the Colts. They're a good football team. There's a lot of talent there, and there's a lot of athletes there.
Super Bowl contender.
And has head coach and quarterback really let down how good some of the rest of the players that Ballard's drafted can be? Like tons of athletes for sure on that football team, and some really good players. And he has drafted some good players. But again, the quarterback is the most difficult thing to find. And so I'm going to side with that every single time, especially when there's a sizable gap between Josh Allen and Tua, in my opinion. Now, the question would be, if we take this a step further, I know Patrick Mahomes isn't the quarterback here, but let's say it's Patrick Mahomes. Is how good Patrick Mahomes is
instead of Allen or instead of Tua?
Instead of Allen, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
We're just kind of debating, like, the chicken or the egg with GM, coach, quarterback here. Would Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes if not for Andy Reid, would be the question. And so if I
think that's Brady Belichick, that's Montana Walsh, that the two awesome, they'd be great on their own and they're legendary with each other.
Right. And so that's kind of the big question is, okay, is it easier for Andy Reid to go find that next quarterback than it would be for a different head coach? Now, in this case, it's Sean McVay, and I think he would be really good at developing and playing with a quarterback. But that would be the argument for Roseman Reed, is that the coaching matters and landing spot matters for quarterbacks. And if this was, say, rookie Josh Allen, would he have become the same thing with the Browns if they drafted Josh Allen, right? Or the Jets? Would we be talking about Josh Allen like we're talking about other busts of NFL pass?
And he's an interesting one for that particular conversation because his career started so slow. I mean, Mahomes, the day he became a starter, was like, whoa, this guy's something, where Allen was like, I don't know about this guy for a couple of years. I mean, it was rough sledding. And I'm sure his environment on and off the field and everything he did with quarterback coaches helped dramatically. Now, this isn't a question. I've referenced this before, and I heard it on another podcast like a month ago, but it's kind of like the Allen conversation. I think it correlates with this question. Is I did it for fun on a Steelers podcast, but because I was asked, because I brought it up and people were like, hey, why don't you go through it? And the question was, how many teams would be a Super Bowl contender if you took their quarterback off and you put Mahomes on? And I came up with like 20. I mean, the contender. It's a lot. Yeah, I mean, out of 31, because the Chiefs don't count. They already have this. And then I had the same question of, is it more or less quarterbacks that you put on the Eagles roster that Roseman created? Are they still a Super Bowl contender? Like Tua on the Eagles, are they a Super Bowl contender? I came up with about 20 of those. So it's kind of the GM versus quarterback conversation. Do I want everything else? Not that Hurts stinks or the Chiefs roster stinks, but that dawned on me when you said, well, what if you put Josh Allen on the Colts? I'm like, that'd be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might be the best team in the league.
That's sort of my thing. So it's like, and forget Chris Ballard or any GM for a minute.
Right.
What if co-GMs, Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock, got to start with McVay and Josh Allen? I think we could put together a pretty good football team.
I know we could. Right.
Yeah, right. So
right. We'd make mistakes. We'd make mistakes, and some GMs would laugh at us like, how did you not know how waivers works? Or, dumb things like that. But I mean, we have to hire somebody.
You have to hire some seasoned veterans, right? But it would be,
if the roster build came down to two of us making that decision.
Yeah.
Who we taking the 9th pick in the draft and the 58th pick in the draft, blah, blah, blah. Do we sign this guy or not?
Well, it's not like Howie Roseman hasn't made some mistakes,
absolutely right.
Bat 1,000 when it comes to the draft, when it comes to personnel.
I got a kick out of it. He certainly deserved all the credit he deserved for building the Super Bowl team that just won it all. Barkley, what an amazing move. Bond, what an amazing move. But his biggest move of the offseason was signing Bryce Huff, who did nothing. He
was not a factor in this.
And he was expensive, and it was a terrible move. Nobody brings that up.
That's a great point. So, yeah, quarterback is the answer to that.
Yeah, and I would value them just in a vacuum: quarterback, head coach, GM.
Yes, and it's a big gap between those. But head coach is really important, and I think landing spot is important. And it would be really fun experiment to go back and see how Josh Allen's career arc would differ on a different team, or Patrick Mahomes, how that would differ, because he was a wild stallion coming out of college too. And I think Andy Reid was the perfect place for him to land. Brock Purdy, the perfect coach for him was probably Kyle Shanahan, right?
Exactly. Another aspect of it, to take a step further, but you couldn't do this for this exercise if people are going to keep throwing these questions at us, is I might even value owner higher than everything but quarterback. Bad owners are really hard to overcome. Like the Bengals, to me, are a really good example. Like, they have the quarterback, but not the owner, and they might be going the wrong direction now.
The owner chooses the coach and the GM.
Right. And if they do that poorly time and time again, or they're cheap, or it's a bad environment, or facilities stink, or whatever,
So an interesting question here that's unrelated, but related, piggybacking off the Indianapolis Colts and how their current build is going with GM Chris Ballard and Christian McCaffrey. Is he a buy? Is he a sell for fantasy football and for NFL football in 2025? Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Yeah, it's NBA playoff time, and I feel like NBA playoffs last forever. And there's always a game every night. They really stagger this thing out to last all the way well into June. Highlight-worthy performances, series-changing momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or breakout players. Never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live during the game, especially during NBA games. There's so many ebbs and flows, performance trends, same game, live, in-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And how about an extra $200 in bonus bets to play with at FanDuel? And all you got to do is win your first $5 bet. And by the way, tons of NFL bets to be made, even though it's the off-season. Rookie props. Go listen to our Monday episode breaking down some of those rookie prop bets for 2025 on FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So a question from Michael here about the Indianapolis Colts. He says, is there a better example of if you have two QBs than you have none in recent memory than what the Colts are doing? Is that roster going to waste? And the second part of that, the roster has kind of been going to waste. And I do think it's a better roster than we realize just because it hasn't all come together. And Ballard has taken another swing with a different head coach now. He took another swing at a quarterback and now brought in a veteran backup to compete with them. And I would agree with Michael on the surface that if it's not clear that one of these guys wins, then it's a bad situation. And it's probably the last season that Chris Ballard will be making those decisions if he doesn't get the quarterback thing right. And to be honest with you, if it's not Anthony Richardson that wins it, it still might be the end for him because I think that Daniel Jones is going to take them to the heights that will be necessary. And if your ownership there, which is now in transition, do they start fresh with a new head coach that has a new vision in Indianapolis?
Yeah, and frankly, he's had a lot of swings, and I know some of them are stopgap. Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, kind of like the Steelers did with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Like some of those are just, that's all that's available at the time, and we don't have many options. But if he misses on Richardson, I would think he's probably done. I agree with everything you said. Now, what I'm not ready to quite concede yet is if you have two and they are the best or the most evenly matched quarterback challenge of the 32 teams, that doesn't mean you don't have one or one of them can't be that one. Maybe today you don't have the guy, but could one of those two turn into your long-term answer? I still believe that answer is probably yes. But if we ranked just the quarterback situations, that's actually something I do most off seasons is I factor in age, everyone in the room, contracts, and you rank every quarterback situation. Like KC's one. I don't care what he costs, and nor do I care who his backup is. How many are worse than the Colts right now? I mean, the Saints, the Steelers, but there aren't many. It's 5 or less.
It's not expensive, which I think is a good thing.
That part's good.
It's easy to just be like, oh, we're going to do it again next offseason. It doesn't even hurt to rip the Band-Aid off, really.
That part's good. And there's upside to both players. One might hit.
So there's probably worse. The Browns were in a worse situation.
Browns is worse.
Yeah. And but the teams that have a good quarterback, even if they're expensive, are better. So it's like
exactly.
And that's kind of the Brock Purdy thing. People are like thinking he's overpaid, maybe, but it's like, at least they're not looking for a quarterback. And I think a lot of coaches would kill for that.
I think it's probably an easy answer, but would you rather have Miami's quarterback situation, who's expensive and fragile and nothing behind him, or the Colts, and which is more of a dice roll?
And that's a good one again.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
talking about Tua and comparing the Dolphins and the Colts, I might take the Colts situation.
I might take the Colts. All right, I at least get 2 bites of the apple.
easier to take the Band-Aid off because like what you want is a great quarterback, right?
But getting away from a bad situation is important too. Like you don't want Deshaun Watson,
right? And so,
know,
great quarterback, awesome. Great quarterback who's cheap, really, really great. Great quarterback, expensive, still fine, awesome.
Great.
Cheap quarterback that's really good, that's great too. That's awesome. That's cool. Expensive quarterback that's not great or injured, that's a bad situation.
Or hard to get away from. Yes. And you're anchored to, like bad contract, fragile or hurt player, And I'm not saying Tua stinks. It's just I think we know what he is.
Yeah, but at his best, he's still at a tier where you're not just at a huge advantage because you have Tua in most weeks. And I will remind people, and again, like that, this is why I love how we went back this week and last week, and we revisited the 2022 draft, the 2021 NFL draft. And speaking of Josh Allen here in this podcast, Matt, Josh Allen looked pretty bad when he was the age of not even the age on the calendar, but the NFL age of Anthony Richardson. It was that year 3.
Similar. I mean, like that bad.
Anthony Richardson could be that. Like that's happened before where like we can't quite put Anthony Richardson to bed yet, right? And I think this competition will be good for him. And I think he will win this job. And I think it might even be rigged for him to win this job. And we'll see what that ends up looking like. Now, if he doesn't take it, because Josh Allen all of a sudden became a star, right? Could Anthony Richardson do that? He's physically talented enough.
Right. It's still a possibility.
Right.
I could write a story that is believable that Richardson 1 year from now is more desirable than Tua.
Contract aside, even.
Yeah, right. Anything. Who would you rather play against? Oh, right. Tua.
So it's
possible.
It's a big one. It's a big year for the Indianapolis Colts.
No, it's a huge year for them.
Daniel Jones is starting games more than like 1 or 2 games because Richardson say gets nicked up or something late in the year or something like that. But if Daniel Jones starts games, then a big change is coming for the Indianapolis Colts.
If he's the best quarterback on the roster, they're probably in big trouble.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This kind of leads into the next question as well, because Bruce wants to know what teams do you think will have the biggest swing in performance and record-wise going from 2024 to 2025? And if Richardson hits, maybe it's the Indianapolis Colts is one of them.
Could be. So I pulled up last year's records, and I'm looking at the teams basically that are under 500 because, it's talked about Miami. They were 11-6. They're not going to be, better than that. I think New England has a chance to significantly win more than 4 games, but I also think the world's getting a little too ahead of themselves with the Patriots. Like, I don't know if they get to 500.
It's still OTAs. By the way, our guy Kyle Williams putting on big displays in OTAs, no pads.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I have 2023 here. I'm like, there's no way that they won that many games before. Okay, sorry.
No, they won 4 games.
Yeah, Miami won 8 games last year.
Yeah.
Patriots won 4, Jets won 5. I don't know that either one's going to be way better, but I like the Patriots better of those chances. Jacksonville's one I keep coming back to, though. I mean, they're 4-13. I still believe in Lawrence to the point where I compared him to Matthew Stafford the other day, that the first 4 or 5 years of Matthew Stafford's career were, not really worth the first overall pick, pretty good player, but deep into his 20s and 30s could be a lot different with big-time weapons. So I think Jacksonville going from 4-13 to 8 wins is possible. I think the Raiders are definitely on this list, going from 4 wins to 7 or 8 with a real quarterback, a real coach, a real offensive coordinator. To me, no team's gotten a bigger facelift than Vegas. Part of me wants to say the Giants, and I know that sounds crazy, but just don't have awful quarterback play, and I think their defense could be awesome, but I'm not going to lump them in because their schedule is insanity. Like the division they play is the NFC North. Like all the times you think you might get a break, it is really, really difficult. Could Dallas go from 7 to 10 wins? Yeah. Could the Bears go from 5 to 10 wins?
I think Dallas is a really good one.
Dallas
would be a team.
And I think you have to mention the Niners. I
think the Niners, Dallas, and look, the Niners are in a situation because they were so injured last year.
Right.
That's an obvious one, and I know they made a lot of changes, and they're starting they're going to start a lot of rookies on defense. So like, there is some hurdles they have to overcome. but they have a lot of star players and well coached and like that. A healthy 49ers should not be surprised that they take a big jump in performance. And
and them and Dallas have a recent history of winning.
Yes, and conversely, the good teams, like if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, if Josh Allen gets hurt, there's a lot of reasons. Those are obvious ones where, okay, this team, they lost their best player, they're going to be worse, right? So,
right. And if we get to ask this a year from now, if Josh Allen misses a whole year, of course you say the Bills,
right?
Yeah.
And which is exactly what happened to the 49ers last year. So, okay, a bunch of their good players got hurt, and so
kind of the equivalent of losing a Josh Allen. If you add them all up,
Absolutely. Speaking of the 49ers, we got a question here about Christian McCaffrey. What is the vision for fantasy nerds of the world for Christian McCaffrey? Is he a buy or a sell in 2025? And a note on international games as well next. This question from Michael. I believe we have multiple Michaels in this. This is a different Michael than earlier. It says, he addresses to me, but I want to hear your opinion as well, Matt. It says, BP, while things are a little slow news-wise, can you give us fantasy nerds your 2025 vision for Christian McCaffrey? I also am going to draft the Niners defense in all leagues I can. Have a sneaking suspicion Saul is going to get them going. Am I crazy? I do love the solid addition. I would slow down just because so many rookies are going to be playing, and I think their run defense is going to be improved. And all of the defensive linemen the Niners drafted, they might start, and they're all good run defenders. Can they get off the field on third down will be the big question there, because they have 8 combined sacks between 3 different defensive linemen that they drafted. So that's the defensive side. McCaffrey, here's the other one. What do you offhand know what McCaffrey's ADP is right now for fantasy, Matt?
No, but I'm close. I was actually going to look and just pull up a list, but I think he's going, I want to say like 15-ish. He's not a first-round pick, but he doesn't last super long into the second, especially in PPR.
Massive buy.
I think so too. Yeah.
Team, right. Like this is where Saquon Barkley, right, in that turn round 1 to round 2, if you're drafting 11, 12, 13, draft Christian McCaffrey, because he could be exactly what Saquon Barkley was last year. And here's the reason why. Because if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, and that's something you're going to want to monitor, right? And all reports are that he's in a good place, but you never know with running backs. That can happen quick, and all of a sudden, we thought this about him last year. He was going to be all right. And it's like, oh, that calf actually is a lot worse, and it's actually maybe this and that, and Achilles, and who knows. And running backs can fall off a cliff, and maybe the cliff has been, he's gone off that cliff, Christian McCaffrey.
It's possible.
If Christian McCaffrey's healthy, he's too good as a receiver, PPR leagues, and Kyle Shanahan rides his running back 1 into the ground, which is partially why Christian McCaffrey ended up injured last year.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
But a year off essentially for him, obviously rehabbing and playing a little bit. But if he's healthy, he is going to be the most utilized player on the San Francisco 49ers offense by a lot. And he doesn't come off the field. He doesn't want to come off the field. Kyle Shanahan doesn't ever want to take his number 1 running backs off the field. And I'm sure Kyle Shanahan's going to answer some reporter's question and be like, oh, we have to be smart with Christian McCaffrey and how we use him. No, Sundays, he's going to play every single snap. Right. And Christian McCaffrey's going to run off the field. He puts his number 1 in the air, which means I'm coming back on the field after 1 play. I'm taking 1 play off. That's what Christian McCaffrey does. Running backs coach doesn't say anything about it. Head coach doesn't say, I'm taking you off the field. I'll be shocked if it does, because this is not a Christian McCaffrey thing either. This is going all the way back to, Elijah Mitchell, who was not practicing all week, gets 27 carries, right? Raheem Mostert, whoever it is, Kyle Shanahan's going to ride his RB1. And there's still a big gap in talent between McCaffrey and the rest of the crew with the 49ers as well at running back. So at pick 15, at pick 12, huge buy for Christian McCaffrey if he's healthy this season. It's a no-brainer. And even if you're not quite sure, and he hasn't practiced a lot, and he hasn't played a lot of preseason games, yeah, the upside is just too great. You don't have to take him 1.1.
No, but it would worry me much more if, when we have seen him on the field recently, if he was a lesser player. And I have not seen any inclinations of that whatsoever. When he's out there, he's still awesome. And folks, maybe not even everyone knows this, or especially if you don't play fantasy, since in the history of fantasy football, he's like the number 1 running back ever in points per game, in fantasy points per game, PPR. like better than Tomlinson. And I'm not sure if it goes back to Jim Brown, but I mean, like basically since fantasy football has been a thing in my lifetime, no one produces more fantasy points at the running back position than this guy. So he's like the heavyweight champ. He's Ali. So I pulled up ESPN's running back ranks, PPR, which is certainly favors him. And that's by far the highest I've seen him ranked. So I didn't pull up the best ranks. But everyone has Bijan, Barkley, and Gibbs ahead of him. Okay. I mean, I think those are strong answers. They're obviously younger. Barkley's coming off a massive season. Most people, ESPN does not, have Genti ahead of him. Okay. I can make a strong case for that. But then you get into like a Chan. Again, remember, it's a PPR. He's much better in PPR. Henry, who's much worse in PPR. Jonathan Taylor, which I don't think is close to me. I mean, like, at worst, he should be the 7th best running back, but they have him 4, which I totally understand too.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can get him the 15th pick in the draft, I'm taking him.
Right. And so here's the things, even with Gibbs, like what would Gibbs be at his ceiling is what Christian McCaffrey already has been, right? And
Right.
The Lions haven't shown that they're willing to give Gibbs the entire role. So
was that you talking about the Family Guy meme?
Right. Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, I hope Gibbs gets a workload like McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I want a boat. Right.
Yeah. It's like, you can have a boat or a mystery box. It's like, oh, the mystery box. That could be anything, even a boat.
I hope it's a boat.
Right.
Right. So, I really want a boat.
Yeah. And can Gibbs handle that load too? And do you even want him to? And that's kind of the thing with running backs in the NFL.
That's just a youth thing, you know.
And if I'm the Lions, I don't want Gibbs to carry the ball that much because I don't want him to be hurt when I need him in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. I might take Genti over both of them, though.
I mean, Genti's a dude, and he's going to get a workload.
There's no Montgomery,
and PPR as well. Last one here. Internet. What's that? Do you have another note on that?
No, I'm going.
Okay. This one from Tommy says, do you guys think it's unfair to have an international divisional matchup? Chiefs and Chargers play in Brazil. Chargers are losing a divisional home game. I know they don't have much of a home field advantage in LA, but still seems unfair. I'm on Tommy's side here, I think.
Me too.
You shouldn't lose a divisional home game. You shouldn't lose a home game, an international game against a divisional opponent.
Yep, I agree. So I've kind of been on the soapbox. We see a lot of divisional Thursday games, which I have a real problem with. But the NFL's logic is you need less time to prepare for one of your rivals because you know them better. But my point is, well, these games mean more, and you're making me do it with no practice. You know, I don't care that I need less time to prepare. The Packers need to prepare for the Bears because they know them so well, but it means more. It weighs more on my outcome. So I think Thursdays are not right for divisional games. This is similar in that it's a weird game. It shouldn't mean more being a weird game in Brazil or Ireland or something that's strange, that's weighted more. But to this point, I think that's 100% well said, is I think in a perfect world, every international game or game you don't play in your stadium for whatever reason should be NFC versus AFC. You know, like the Steelers are playing in Dublin, and there's a bunch of Steeler buddies of mine are like, oh, but we lose a home game. I can't go to, Acrisure and party with my buds and drink my face off. But I'm like, well, someone has to. And if it's an even year, the NFC gets an extra home game. If it's an odd year, the AFC gets an extra home game. So therefore, games that aren't played at either stadium, whoever gets the extra home game should just lose it.
Yep, I totally agree. And there's a few notes here. One is like, I don't think that the league is out to get the Chargers. It's just that they go through a million simulations and all these versions of the schedule, and it's just never going to quite be perfect. And some teams are just going to have to deal with some stuff that's not ideal for them, whether it's travel or whether it's a division game on a Thursday on the road, or whether it's an international divisional game. And the league,
I'm going to fight you a little. I'm sorry.
I just think the league is more about, well, we're going to have, it's kind of like, it's like a parent talking to their kids. It's like, I know you don't like broccoli, but you're eating your broccoli. Like that's it's going to be on your plate because I make the decisions. And in the end, we need the international game more than we care about whether you're playing a divisional game.
I'll counter with this, though. I firmly believe in the NFL would deny it up and down. They wouldn't take the home game from the Chiefs. They take it from the Chargers because nobody goes.
Well, yeah, and they want the right.
Right.
Right. If there was two versions and everything else is exactly the same, except for the Chiefs Chargers home games were flipped and it was the Chiefs game on the road, or the Chiefs home game they would say, yeah, let's do the Chargers home game.
Exactly. So the Chargers should take it a little personally, and they should get more than 30% of their stadium full of their fans too, or this wouldn't happen.
Yep. And I think that they do like to have the Chiefs internationally as well. And the fact that they can do that and not take a home game.
Oh, yeah. They want Taylor Swift to go to wherever it is, too.
Right. Oh, yeah. They want her to be in the box there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Phenomenal. Thanks for all the questions. Apologies to the questions we did not get to. There's actually not going to be a Friday show this week. Matt is going up to camp. He's going
get away.
Yeah. He's going to a different kind of camp, which is nice for you to get away. And don't text him because are you even going to have self coverage over there?
Very little. So I did Steelers camp for the last 3 days, and now we're going to be getaway camp for the next 2 days. So. Did
you say you're going to be at the highest peak in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I mean it's not exactly the Rocky Mountains, but it is, the Appalachians, and it's the highest point in PA. It's pretty cool up in the mountains, right around the lake. It's great.
Be careful. I've heard there's some weird mountain folk up in the Appalachia. So.
Oh yeah, there's definitely. It is big time. You'll see horses and buggies. I mean, it's very much Amish country.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
It's great. Yeah.
Nice. Well,
middle of nowhere. That's why there's no coverage. There's nobody there.
Some much needed rest and relaxation for the Williamson clan.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Matt and I back Monday right here. Peacock and Williamson.